What's going on, team? Welcome back along to the channel for the Round 11 Super Rugby preview show. Now, this week has been an extremely hectic week here at the crib. Last weekend, I was up in Dunedin for a few days for the Highlanders match against the Blues.
I wasn't deaf before, I am now. Oh, there we go, that's better. Timely invention there. They need a new radio guy. I'll leave them my number. Here's a friend, Ma, old man Nonu.
What? Penalty try.
That's one for the ref. Good job, Mr. Ref.
Following that, yes, Easter. Easter has happened, and well, if you work in an area I work in where Easter doesn't really mean you get to spend time at home, well then you know exactly the sort of week I've been having. So sadly, we haven't had time to cook up a special guest for this week's show, so we're flying solo for the second time this season. We're going to have a quick look at the games coming up with my picks, who I think's going to win, and we're going to do it like we did last time. I found it quite fun to actually do the picks exactly the same time as we talked about the matches. So hopefully we'll get a quick look through the games, have a look of course at the usuals, the Super Brews, the yellow cards and all that sort of like in the competition so far. So without further ado, let's get into it and kick off the Round 11 preview. Of course, we do have the 6 matches coming your way this weekend, and of course we've got the 3 teams having the bye, which are the Blues, which are the Rebels, and of course the Reds as well, after their fantastic win last week following that little tour and that great victory over the Sharks. Of course, we'll have a look at the yellow card situation as well, and it was a pretty tame week last week for yellow cards. We only picked up a couple in the whole round, and putting our total up to 47 yellow cards for 2019. We've still got a very slender lead over 2018, which had 44, and of course we've got the 4 red cards as well this season to keep us ticking over very, very slowly in that department. But we've got the lead, and we'll look to hang on to that as well for hopefully the rest of the season. On to Super Brew, and it's only fitting that the yellow cap comes out. We can actually wear it properly for once, because I don't have to listen to anyone else. It's just me rambling on by myself. So we have a look at the leaderboard here, and we see Nate's is still dominating at the top of the table. He is looking very, very good this season. 55 points in total. He's got a tiny little lead over Jack, who had a very good round to catch up that deficit he had. He's on 54.75, and then 0.75 behind that is now 3 Crowns 1 in 3rd position, who is overtaking Grant, who falls down to 4th, and then I'm still there in 5th. I'm really happy with how I'm sitting. Last round was a bit of a shocker. A lot of people had terrible rounds, getting normally one right, and so to come away with, I think I only got 2. But that wasn't too bad. We'll have a look at the overall average before we kick off our picks, because I'm pretty sure it was pretty low by everyone last round in round number 10. So I'm happy. I'm still sitting there in 5th position. I'm just sitting above Benjatron 98, who has popped up 1 spot. He is just under a point behind me as well. So I'm really sitting in an awkward position. I'm over a point behind Grant, and I'm under a point ahead of Benjatron. So hopefully those guys have a bit of a shocking round in round 11. We've got a bit of a drop there for a Fluffy Bockeel 1, who's gone down 3 spots. So we're sitting nicely in that 6th. They've fallen down. Other big movers, Owen Davies has gone up 19 spots, which is really a lot. But you see here, going through the leaderboard, a lot of guys have gone up or down on the basis of one game, really, because the 1 and 3 was about all anyone ever got. Driving Mall only picked up the 1 last week. He's dropped down 5. A lot of guys around him also dropping down a few. So he's gone down to 27th. Who else we got near of interest that we normally have as regulars on the show. Brett Hartley and Taz, neck and neck, those two. You see, Brett's on 43, really hoping to get him back on the show very soon, as well as Taz, 43.5. Maybe those two will be on next week. One of them, we'll see how we go from there. Yellow Cap winner, though. Here we've got Feely coming in up 14 spots. In the 60s they were, up to 49th, though, the Yellow Cap going the way of Feely, way down the order. And then there's Andy Poddle, 49er, with the wooden spoon. Down 5 as well. Really surprising there. That's the wooden spoon are going to someone who's actually really in the race, I guess, middle of the table sort of job. Further on down, not too much movement there. And the chumps at the bottom not doing too well at the end of it. I'm still missing, there's Ryan. So Ryan just been pipped by the Yellow Cap winner as well. Ryan's having a shocking season. His Blues certainly not going the way he would have wanted. But there is Subaru. I'm really pleased. I'm really stoked to be sitting up in 5th. And as we go through the season, we're well over halfway now. Just hoping I can keep it there. Hoping that we can hold on to that top 10 would be absolutely phenomenal if we can manage to do that. So really good so far on Subaru, and hoping we can get another good week this weekend. So let's get into it. Let's get into our round 11 picks for Super Rugby this weekend. And quickly, just before we move on to the matches itself, here is round 10, and the individual results of that one round. You can see Feely with the Yellow Cap at the top there. He got 5 out of 6, which is just absurd. Owen got 4 out of 6, and then from there on it was 3s. And a lot of guys got 3 or 4, 3 or 2 out of 6. You can see, there we go. Not that many got 3 either. A little chunk of people with 3. There you can see it, 10 or 12 maybe, picking up only 3 out of 6, and then a lot getting 2. So I was in there with 2. Taz picked up 2 as well. A lot of guys picking up a couple. Nate's only got 2. So a lot of people could have picked up, and then a lot getting just the 1, and even Ducks down the bottom. Terrible picks there from some of those guys. But there we go. Interesting, isn't it? A bad round like that. Everyone's having a bad round, except for a couple who got over that 50% mark. On to round 11 though. Alright, so being this late in the week, it is Friday midday around about right now when I'm recording this. We've got all the teams to pick from, so it's a little bit easier to get a bit of an insight. I'll try not to go too long because I want to get this out to you guys as soon as possible this evening or this afternoon. So they won't be long previews this week. We'll just be having a short little tinker and a tabble about what I think is going to happen. And we kick off on Friday night. Tonight, in a few hours' time, it is the Crusaders up against the Lions. Now, this is the Crusaders, isn't it? The Crusaders have become that juggernaut. They've become that amazing side. Apart from that little blip around the tragedies of Christchurch a number of weeks ago now, they have been a phenomenal side. And you look through the team that they've named as well, it looks really good. The front row's got Moody, it's got Taylor. It's just a really good pack. Question marks always around that back row. When they're missing a few guys, they've got Fitu Douglas starting on the blind side. They've got Billy Harmon starting on the open side. A lot of people will be going, who's he? Exactly. Mitre 10 Cup player for a few years now, and he's getting his Super Rugby chance. I don't think it's his debut, but he hasn't played a huge amount of Super Rugby. Kieran Reid's at 8, and that's probably where, if anywhere, the Lions will get a big advantage when they've got guys like Quagga Smith, Cole Brink, and of course, the main man, Warren Whiteley himself. Now, they are missing Malcolm Marx. Now, will they be missing Malcolm Marx when the game kicks off? I mean, a lot of talk in the last week about that match against the Chiefs, where they named the 23 hours, or probably days, couple of days beforehand, the 48-hour rule, whatever, and then changed it all up just before kickoff, bringing the likes of Yankees on at 12, Malcolm Marx come in, a lot of changes to that side, which made ultimately a huge difference. Those guys are massive players, but, you know, I don't see a problem with that. They were named in the 23 anyway. It's not like you weren't going to deal with Malcolm Marx. He was already on the bench at worst. So to say, you know, they weren't prepared for that player to be on the field, that is a load of crap, because he's going to come on. I mean, Malcolm Marx doesn't play less than 35 minutes, is he? If he didn't start, he would have been on straight after half-time. So, I mean, yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, clever ploy, maybe a little bit unsportsmanlike from the Lions coaching staff, but hey, they kids come to New Zealand and they played a great performance against the Chiefs, and those guys were epically key. Like we talked about though, a lot goes on that back row, and a lot goes on the number 10 battle. This week they've got Reynolds starting there. Yankees has been named at 12 yet again. Will he start there? Who the hell knows? But up against Mo'unga will be Reynolds. That battle will be key. South Africa keeps spitting out these talented young fly halves that seem to be able to perform at a good level, so we'll see how that combination works out. But, I mean, they could do that against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a side that you can surprise, you can upset, you can manipulate, I guess, to a certain degree. The Crusaders, you're not going to get that luxury, and they have a very, very good side. The backline very settled, it's explosive, it's just good. It's just the Crusaders. They don't get rattled very much. And against the Lions at home, we've seen how this goes recently in the last few years. This is a matchup we've seen a lot. Grand finals, yes, exactly. Who's won them? The Crusaders. Who's going to win them again? You guessed it. It's going to be the Crusaders. I don't know if it's going to be a huge thrashing, but I think it'll be more than a try. And for that, I'm going to be going Crusaders by 8 over the Lions to kick it off. Following that, we go over to, pretty sure, Prince Yoshibu Stadium. It is in Tokyo. The Sunwolves up against the Highlanders. My boys, the Highlanders, have a tough battle here. Now, there's a lot riding on this. There's a lot of interesting factors about this matchup. Coaching, mainly Tony Brown. Former, of course, Highlander player, Highlanders coach, and of course, he was the coach when they were champions those few years ago as well. So this is interesting. It's a throwback of sorts to what the Highlanders have been, what the Sunwolves are right now. And it's a very, very good team named by both these sides. There is no Ben Smith for the Highlanders in this week's matchup again, which is a bit interesting. Matt Faddis is there at fullback, which is going to be key. I mean, Ben Smith last week in the match against the Blues was massive. Just his celerity, just how strong he is. Just he doesn't stuff it up, and that is key for any team to have that rock-solid player at the back. They've got Aaron Smith starting at 9. That's massive. He was off the bench last week. And Josh Ioane starting at 10. With this game's going to be won and lost, I guess you can easily say the Sunwolves, keys for them, number 10. Hayden Parker, linchpin of this team, and a forward pack that'll perform. And we've seen plenty enough from the likes of Tui, Pryor. Those guys are great. Their pack can stand up. And I mean, this Highlanders pack is often underestimated, but the way that these Sunwolves are going, this could be a bit of a battle. This could be a test of two packs who aren't fantastic, aren't world beaters, but they are kind of workman-like packs. And the advantage over the other possibly won't be a big determining factor because these are both sides that are used to playing without overly dominant packs. So that is going to be interesting to see how those two sides adjust to that. Of course, both got very explosive, very exciting backlines. Masirewa has been amazing over recent weeks, and we look at him to do some more from that as well. Highlanders will be up against it, and I think it's going to be a really tough battle for both these sides, but you got to go into it. The Highlanders are favourites. The Sunwolves, big possibility to pull off the upset, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're really close to actually being the favourite on picks, because this is definitely a winnable game for the Sunwolves. I'm not going against that though. I'm going to stick with my boys, the Highlanders, but not by much. I'm going to go Highlanders by just 4 points over. And actually, I didn't lock them, did I? Which is a really silly part that I didn't do. Because we're watching this, we're locking it. And we'll see if there's anything else of interest. Here we go. This is what we missed out on in the first game. Crusaders, huge favourites, as expected. Very few people going for the Lions, but this is where we wanted to see this. Let's lock it in. Lock that one. Clickety-click. And what's this? Oh, only 32% going for the Sunwolves, which is interesting. But there is a lot, though. A lot for the Sunwolves, which is really, really, really good. A few guys in the pool going for the Sunwolves, and they could be the difference makers. The Highlanders, not great form leading up to that win versus the Blues, but they did look really good against the Blues. Very, very impressive in that game. Close win for me in that one. Let's move on. Hurricanes versus Chiefs, and I'm sorry, I don't have too much to say about this one because there's a few things in here that has been key. Very, very key for me. No Brodie Retallick in the Chiefs. That's massive. Of course, all the other injuries that they've got going on. This team for the Chiefs is decent. It's good enough. It's a battler. It's a competitor. They're missing so many key players, which is massive for them. But I look at the Hurricanes, and I look at the fact that Ardie Savea is back. Beauden Barrett's back. Jordie Barrett's back. it's just insane, isn't it? Jordy Barrett's back at fullback. Chase Tiatia, who's looked very good this season, has moved to the left wing, which will be interesting to see how he goes here because he is a very dynamic player, very explosive player as well. But, I mean, those additions, they're world-class players, especially Ardie Savea, Beauden Barrett. It's going to be tough. And, you know, Marty McKenzie, yes, he's battled very well, he's looked good, but, I mean, this Chiefs side has to absolutely gel and have all the luck in the world if they're to stand a chance here. I can't see it. It's at home as well for the Hurricanes. Nothing points to a Chiefs victory here, and I'm really keen to see what everyone else thinks as well. I'm going Hurricanes all day long. Those changes, the fact that the Chiefs are missing their real talisman in Retallick, he's the big one. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough. And I mean, even in the areas they've got advantages and like of Anton Lienert-Brown and the excitement of Alomalo and Moeki'ola and that, those guys are good, but look what they're up against. They're up against equals, if not even slightly better players, which is really difficult to see how they're going to get any real advantage and get on top of this Hurricanes team. Again, if they can get a little bit of assertiveness, a little bit of dominance in that type 5, that could give them a little bit of something, but I just can't see the Hurricanes doing poorly here. They've just got too much quality, too much talent, and I think it could be a bit of a messy one. Hurricanes by the double ones, 11 to the home team. Let's lock that in, see what you guys all think about it so far this round. Yeah, wow. Jeez, isn't that emphatic? 96% expecting a Hurricanes victory, and yeah, very big. A few guys not made picks yet, but no one in the pool picking the Chiefs. So there you go. Poor old Chiefs. 3 wins in their last 4, though. Not too bad, but I think this could come to another loss for them this week. Moving over to Australia, and our 4th match of the weekend, the Waratahs versus the Sharks. Oh, God, the Sharks. The Sharks. Tell me what's going on with the Sharks. I mean, we've seen the stats coming out in the last week about at that current state after 10 rounds. Any match involving a South African team is 50-50 win-loss. Favourites, underdog, 50-50. It's just crazy, absolutely madness how inconsistent these 4 South African teams are. They're up against the Waratahs on the road. And I mean, I just can't look at the Sharks side and go, yeah, I mean, they've got guys who are going to change the game. I mean, you look at the Canes, you say Ardie Savea, you say Beauden Barrett, they're game changers, the X factors that their opposition doesn't have that can change a game, develop a game. And you look at this side and the Sharks, you say, yes, Curran Bosch can change a game. He's starting at 10, which is, I like that, very good to see. But I mean, he's the only guy that I've seen any form from. A few changes in the side. Armour's back as well. Fussie's moved to fullback. He's done a lot off the bench. Robert de Preet's actually moved to the bench. Very interesting. Cameron Wright's starting as well, scrum half. That means Louis Schroeder's gone to the bench. So I really want to go the Sharks. I really, really like this Sharks team. It's exciting. It's good. It's talented. But I just can't back the inconsistency. It's just so difficult to really pick. Let's the Waratahs, though. A very consistently named side, but their form hasn't been great. They've scratched and clawed their way home. They're playing at New Stadium now, Bankwest Stadium in Parramatta. Their first game there as well. A few changes. Beale stayed at fullback, though. Carmichael once come into inside centre. Curtis Rona's back on the left wing as well. I mean, Foley was really bad at the start of last week's game, but then he come on very nicely and played a very good second, 50 minutes or so in that matchup. Common sense says go with the Waratahs at home because that's got to be the big thing. But this Sharks team, man to man, this Sharks team is much, much better. But I just can't see them consistently getting enough done. And this is the problem. This is when you be like, okay, they should have won last week. They didn't. So I'm not going to back them this week. And then they win. So it's a real tough one. This is the toughest one, I think, to pick out of all of them. And I don't know which way to go. This is a real conundrum between the Waratahs and the Sharks. And I mean, you've got to look at it, I guess, with a level head. You've got to look at it for the sense of retaining 5th position, which is what I've got to do. And I think that's where we're going to go. We're going to go with the Waratahs by a whisker. I mean, 2 points. They are not a team, the Waratahs, to lose by a lot. And wow, that is actually surprising. That is really surprising. I think a lot of people have lost confidence in the Sharks. As exciting as extremely talented as the players are, people have lost faith. They've really lost faith in this team. And everyone, majority, is going with the Waratahs. Okay, so I'm going, dude, yeah, DePaul's there as well. Goodness me, I'm going very, 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 very little. Just 2. Waratahs to take it. Goodness me, Sharks, don't turn up this week, please, for the love of rugby. Let's move on, though, over to South Africa. Battle of the South African sides. Newlands is the venue. The Stormers are up against the Bulls. Right, now, this, I don't know. This one's an interesting one because the Stormers and the Bulls, completely different sort of areas or positions at the moment. The Stormers, really amazing against the Rebels. The rest of their tour was a write-off, really. It was pretty... It was promising, but ultimately they weren't really in the matches at all. They're back at home, but you look at the South African Conference, and this is 5th versus 1st. First is on the road, but it's in South Africa. I mean, the Bulls have been much more impressive. I mean, all that separates them. Have a look at the table if you've got a mere second any time. A 4-point win, so a win. So 4 points for the Stormers here. We'll put them on equal points with the Bulls in first. So there you go. 1 to 5, 4 points. That's all that is in this conference. So it's pretty tough to say, oh, they're in first, they're in last. It's going to be a thrashing because they're the top team. Nowhere near it. There is one game differential between the sides, really, of wins to losses. It is too close to pick. And you look through the sides, it's a good Stormers side. It's what they've produced all season long. Khaleesi's back, he's starting again. He's really got to run this team right from the start. It's South Africa in a nutshell, isn't it, this season? Like we talk about the Sharks, it's that sort of cap. Good team, quality players, terrible performances. I don't know if you call it that. You can't even dot it down to touring because they do it at home. That's how odd they've been. The Bulls, though, I think have been, if anything, it's a bad way to use it, the less inconsistent of the sides. Evan Etzebeth is coming back off the bench as well. Good to see him back in the mix for the Stormers. But for the Bulls, Vermeulen's back at 8 as well. Pollard, massive key for me. This cycling guy looked like quite a little catch of them coming in. Jade Sighting looks like a good little winger as well. Good finisher. Of course, they got Oddendale's been good. Creel's been good. It's a nice little pack as well, with plenty of monster in there. RJ Snyman has been exceptional as a guy kind of under the radar. Has been absolutely massive for the Bulls this season. I think, simply put, I'm going for the lesser of the two inconsistents, and that'll be the Bulls, because they just look a little bit more of a settled team, a little bit of a better team, and the Bulls, they are top. We've got to take that into consideration. They've got a game in hand as well over the rest with that 4-point lead over the 5th place Stormers. And it's in South Africa as well. So that's key for them. They're still at home, technically, or not in their home stadium or home area, but they are still in Africa, which isn't as big of a leap going to Brisbane or something like that, or to Christchurch. So Bulls for me all day. Not too much of a real consideration. We'll go by 5. I think it's still going to be fairly, but yeah, it's hard to tell if they could be really close, or one team just won't show up. And I mean, if we see the Stormers not show up, the Bulls will romp them, and it could get pretty nasty. But we'll just go conservative. We'll just go for the win, and that's what we want to see. Let's look at this. We didn't lock this pick, which is an idiotic thing that I didn't do. Bulls to take the win. I'm going by 5 points, I think, from memory. Yes, we've locked that in. The Bulls on the road. Oh, it's fairly close, isn't it? That's interesting. I thought it would have been a bit of a blowout, this one, but only 61. So 60-40, effectively going the way of the Bulls. That is an interesting result. Jaguares, Brumbies. Ah, dear. Well, let's just go straight through it, shall we? Jaguares at home, really good. Brumbies on the road, pretty average. Yes, they've shown little touches of what they can do, the Brumbies. I mean, their victory last weekend for them was unprecedented to go and pick up a win there. But again, it goes back to what we just talked about. The Stormers, South African teams, poof, who knows what's going to happen. So, I mean, read what you like into that. The Jaguar has been far too good to let that happen. They seem to be a lot better this season, especially at home. Home ground advantage is big for them. They sit fourth on the South African Conference, equal points with the Stormers, but like we talked about already, they beat the Brumbies. They could go top of the table, especially if the Lions lose, which is what I'm picking to happen. The Sharks lose, which I'm picking to happen as well. If, you know, it's just weird. The Bulls and the Stormers make it a bit odd, but ultimately they could be tied for the top of the table with the Bulls and the Stormers if the Stormers win. Otherwise, they could just go to second. I mean, the Jaguares have been really good this season. They had good victories, good performances, and they've been a little bit more disciplined. They've been a little bit better in their poor areas. So they've been a lot better this season, the Jaguares. A little bad spell in the middle, you can see in their form from their last 7 games. But I'm picking a Jaguares win. They are rolling out guys that are performing at Super Rugby level like it is blocks of cheese just rolling out into the field. That's how deep the talent is in Argentina, and I hope it continues as well. I really want to see a Jaguares victory here, so I'm not even second guessing it here. I'm going straight for it with a big win for the home team. Big win. I think it will be fairly comfortable. I'm going to go by 12. Let's lock this one and see what you guys all think. Oh yes, Jaguares big, but not too big. A lot of guys around the high single digits, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9s. And not too many going for the Brumbies on an away win. So going with the community expectation, 84% there for that one. We did lock the rest of them, didn't we, to have a look at the community decisions? Yeah, we did. So there we go. That is the full round of picks for me this weekend as well. Hopefully for round 12 preview we'll have a special guest back on the show. But yeah, it was really good to get away last weekend and go see the Highlanders take on the Blues. Big thanks to the guys at 2 Degrees there for making that happen for me, hooking me up with some tickets to see the mighty Highlanders and that massive victory over the Auckland Skummers, the Blues. I'll be back again, of course, next week, hopefully, like I said, with special guests. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the preview. Let me know what you think about the picks, and don't forget to get yours in before the deadline tonight when the Crusaders start things off against the Lions. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you next week. Until then, take care.